Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Jennifer. In this video, I'll be showing you how I made this adorable gingerbread man and woman inspired by a picture I saw on Pinterest. In case you haven't been following, this is part of my Christmas countdown series going on right now, so check out the other crafts I've made so far if you haven't already. This project is very easy. The only tool you might need is some type of a saw. I used a miter saw to cut the boards to length. I also used a miter saw for these little circles you see here, and I cut them from dowel rods. You're also going to need craft supplies to decorate your gingerbread couple, so if you're interested in making this craft, stay with me and I'll show you how I did it. I started off by hunting through my shed for potential boards to use for the gingerbread couple. I found one that looked like a winner at 5.5 inches wide by 5/8 inches thick and 58 inches in length. It did have a slight bow in the front, so I fed it through my planer a couple times to even that out. I found the halfway point at 29 inches and estimated the height for each. I knew I wanted the male one to be a few inches taller than the female one. I had to keep in mind where the imperfection and natural knots in the wood fell and work around those. My first cut was to even up the very end, and then I cut at the 28-inch mark. To avoid having huge knots at the cut line or predominant areas of the gingerbread woman, I cut the second board at 26 inches in height. I lightly sanded the boards before taking them outside to spray paint. I chose this rich Rust-Oleum brown paint. The color is called Warm Caramel. Depending how you plan to display these, you may or may not need to paint the back. I did just in case I decide to build a stand for them later on, but I didn't do that in this video. I wanted to keep it simple. After the paint was thoroughly dry, I looked at my inspiration photo for guidance to decorate each gingerbread person. For the eyes, I decided to use circular rhinestones that measure 1 inch in diameter, and for the round buttons, I chose to cut them from this curtain rod. It measures 1.5 inches in diameter. You could always buy pre-cut circles at a craft store. I just didn't have any on hand. The rhinestones are only available in colors and didn't come in black, so I spray painted them and let them dry completely. Meanwhile, I cut the curtain rod into 13 circles, measuring about 1/8 of an inch in thickness. I used a stop block to make this process go quicker, and so they'd be exact. To keep them from flying off or falling down into the table of the miter saw, I used painter's tape for stability. You're only going to need 11 circles, 4 make up the cheeks and 7 for the buttons, but I cut a couple extras in case I goofed up. Once cut, I sanded the rough edges by holding them together in groups initially and also individually to fine tune. I gave 4 of them several coats of this beautiful pink. They will become the cheeks. To create this rickrack trim, I used actual cardstock in the rickrack pattern that I had on hand and traced it by coming down from the top and up from the bottom 2 inches. I used the help of a square to evenly place the strip I'm using as a template. Then I traced it with a thin acrylic paint pen in white, then went back and filled it in with a thicker pen. While that was drying, I used the same paint pens to color the buttons in all white. You might need to give the rickrack and buttons a couple coats of paint to get it to cover to your liking. Then I drew the Grin using a rounded paper plate. You can use anything as a template. This is just what I happen to have on hand. I used a black Sharpie to get the initial outline, then traced along it to make it a little bit thicker. I used wood glue and my square to place each pink cheek, but later went back with hot glue as the circles are porous and didn't adhere well the first time. The wood glue did work well on the eyes though. I wanted the faces to be as identical as possible, so I lined both bodies up and used my square to duplicate the first example. Coloring these peppermint buttons in was a little bit harder than I imagined it would be, so to keep them uniform, I created a little paper circle as a template and folded it into eighths. To create the bows, I hunted through my Christmas bin of supplies and found these very basic red velvet bows. I added some green ribbon and gold garland to give it a little bit of pizzazz, then hot glued all of the embellishments onto the gingerbread couple using the help of my square as I wanted them to closely match in spacing. I will add my measurements in the description of this video to help you place your facial features and buttons. Here's a look at the finished product. I am in love with how cute and cheerful this gingerbread man and woman turned out. And of all of the crafts I've made so far in this countdown, this is probably one of the easiest. So I thank you for watching. I hope this video was helpful and inspirational. If you're not already a subscriber, I hope you'll hit that follow button and look me up. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook as well. As always, I thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care.